Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 27th of September. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barrie to talk all things Rangers. How are we doing, Joshua?
Fine, Derek. Yeah, I was up at Dundee at the weekend, and it was a bit of a long trip for me as a city boy, but no, good. Glad another 3 points. It wasn't. It was far from routine. It wasn't another performance that wasn't really complete, but I guess another 2 points gained on your rivals, and you look at it from that perspective, and it depends if you're a half full, a glass half full, a glass half empty. I guess looking at that result of the weekend.
Yeah, but I was down at the Leicester game at the weekend, but I had the Rangers game on my phone, so I was keeping an eye on proceedings. It didn't look the greatest of spectacles, Joshua, and I know supporters were a bit disgruntled come the end of it because performance-wise, it was nowhere near what we come to expect from this Rangers side, but it's becoming all too common an occurrence this season. The result is all that matters, I guess, is it? Or would you like to see a better performance? I guess you would.
Yeah, there's a really good piece on our site today by Gary Cormody, and he kind of argues that, is it at what point does the narrative change from it's great to be winning when you're not playing well to it's not great to not be playing well? For me, there's lots of things that come into it. I think obviously, you're going away to all these grounds and teams are playing in front of their home crowds again, and it's a complete different game to going away last season. But also, I think teams just are capitalising on Rangers being a little bit defensively vulnerable. I think the long ball that you've seen in a lot of games this season, think of Tony Watt getting through at Ibrox with the high line, think of Paul McMullen for the penalty, think of Michael Halloran for the goal. Seems to be a little bit of the Achilles heel. I thought there were spells where Rangers did look really good. Not in terms of 10, 15 minutes of pressure, but there was those kind of 2-3 minute spells where they kept possession in and around the box. I thought the goal was brilliantly worked. Morelos didn't have his best afternoon, but if you watch his movement for that goal, that's top class, and he creates that goal. Right from 10 seconds before when he's out of the other touch side, dragging Liam Fontaine everywhere, and Joe Rebo provided the finishing touch. I thought Yanis Hadji sped up the attack with his little touches in and around the kind of final thirds, but it wasn't a dominating performance, and Dundee on the basis of play really should have got a point. And I guess that's the frustration, is that Rangers either aren't able to retain pressure on teams as they were last season, and what I mean by that is when they attack, they're not able to box teams in, and instead they're looking more vulnerable to that long ball over the top, which makes the game very end-to-end as compared to Rangers being able to build more possession. And the other frustration is that, they're still not creating loads and loads of high-quality chances. And I thought they actually missed a little bit of a threat in behind against Dundee when the game went end-to-end. Obviously, Ruth, Morelos and Hadji, neither of them, maybe Morelos has got a fair bit of pace in him, but neither of them really has the pace to outrun the defence. So you missed the kind of Sakala, Wright or Kent, just someone to stretch the game and maybe make Dundee sit 5 yards deeper because they knew they could squeeze 5 yards up because they knew there wasn't the pace to hurt them in behind. So, there's loads of themes from the game. There's loads of positives as well. Maybe not loads, but a few positives. I thought John Lundstram was excellent. John McLaughlin with a penalty save was really good. Yanis Hadji coming back in there. Joe Rebo with finishing touch. But again, Derek, the narrative is, okay, that's good, but, it's still not quite there, and you can only get away with that for so long, I guess, in these types of games.
Yeah, a lot of you getting in touch, which is great to have you on board. Gordon says a win is a win, and we'll take that all day long. Thomas McDougall says 6 points in front after only 7 games and still to start to up a gear, so doing okay. Alan sort of agrees the game was very poor, but 3 points. I wanted to touch on Connor Goldson. He never had his best of games at Dens Park, Joshua. Poor for the penalty, and he's not hit the heights, has he, this season as he did last season? Now, I know I done a piece on his ongoing contract saga that seems to be never ending. It's easy to sort of point that towards him, but he certainly doesn't look the same player this season. What do you sort of put that down to?
I've got doing a piece on the defence at the moment, Derek, and I think the thing is, if you look at take the penalty, for example, on Saturday, right? And you look at the breakaway from that. Now, you can't see, in the camera angle, you can't see the defensive line until the ball switches over. But Connor Goldson's isolated one-on-one with McMullen, and yes, he probably should just go and deal with that first time. I don't really know what he's trying to do in letting him have the ball. But the thing is with this Rangers defence, in the terms of the numbers they defend with, but also the way they defend, it's so fine-tuned on the way they defend high up the pitch. And if you look at the turnover scenario, when the player picks the ball up, he has time to hit the space. And any professional footballer is going to be able to hit space and behind the defence if Rangers don't make it uncomfortable for them. You've seen that a lot. It was really well covered with, high profile with Liverpool last season, when they had that, their defence looked really vulnerable, but they also weren't defending well high up the pitch, and it's that kind of cause and effect basis. So throw-ins and corners, the Rangers did look weak, and Goldson was such a titan at the back last season that you almost forget that he has that mistake in him. But for me, it's so much a wider issue of how the team's defending without the ball. The pressure numbers, again, are going up, which, in my opinion, is a good sign. Against Dundee United and St Johnstone, the pressure numbers were under 90. Against Dundee on Saturday, it was 134. And that just means, pressure on the ball to push it backwards, try and win the ball back, and effectively more engagement when Rangers don't have the ball. So for me, it's, you also look at the defence as being unsettled. How many times have we named the same back five, if you like, with the goalkeeper? So as I say, I don't know what he's trying to do for the goal, but I think if you look at that, for example, example as well, you have to ask questions of the whole team. It's the same with the John McLaughlin yellow card at St Johnstone, Derek, where the space is there for Liam Craig to hit, who's a good left foot, and Rangers don't press well, and Rangers have 4 men in that area. So it's always going to be difficult for the defence to deal with that if the defence are being asked to play high up. So it's a more fine-tuning issue for me. Stephen Gerrard said after the Motherwell game, we'll need to look at why the long ball caused us such issues for Tony Watt's chance, and I imagine that is on the agenda this week as well, because teams are targeting that, and Rangers need to either stop it at source or start to drop back 5 yards in these games, because it is going to come back to hurt them, in my opinion.
Yeah, the two shining lights, I think you touched on. Well, before that, there's a great article, as we mentioned, from Gary Kermody on Connor Goldson on the website, folks, so do go check that out. But the two real shining lights from the game, John Lundstram and John McLaughlin. I want to touch on the goalkeeper, first of all. His clean sheet record is unbelievable, Josh. Is it 16 from 20 starts or something like that? It is crazy good. Again, Mr. Reliable, isn't he? He steps in for Alan McGregor in the nicest possible way. You don't really miss Alan McGregor somewhat. He produced a game-changing moment with the penalty save as well. And another top-class performance from him. Yeah,
and as well, Derek, you look at John McLaughlin with the ball at his feet, and I think he's very calm and composed. And I don't think that Alan McGregor's distribution is the best for all his qualities. And look, McGregor's turning 40 this year, so there has to be some form of a succession plan. And you guess that's when you've got to trust the management staff, because McLaughlin seems to be McGregor's at a stage in his career where he can come in for any game, probably. Sharpness maybe aside, McGregor's not going to be phased if he comes and plays in Old Firm after not playing for 2 months. I'm guessing that's what the party line is. And John McLaughlin's a top goalkeeper. And again, you've seen that at the weekend. Maybe it's again a case of just that we've seen with Robbie McCrory playing with the high line in the Old Firm, how effective he was just being able to make up that little bit of a gap. Maybe it's a case with John McLaughlin as well, that if Rangers are playing this away from home, they want to have their slightly younger goalkeeper, maybe slightly quicker off his line. But the penalty save was great. I thought Cummins, when he stepped up, looked for me looked dangerous, actually, coming through it. I forgot how quick he was. He's actually quite a quick player off the final shoulder, and you just thought, this is going to go in, isn't it? But it was a great save with McLaughlin, hanging his legs out there. I'm absolutely no expert or much knowledge at all on critiquing goalkeepers, but if you're able to dive to one side and leave your legs hanging, good for me. I mean, but then equally, it is the case of the unsettled defence in terms of the chances they're creating. Is that due to the chopping and changing? Is it? I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Derek? Does the selection come into it?
It's a tough one, because that was not an issue last season, and goalkeepers were changed as well. McLaughlin had a good amount of games, of course. It's an interesting one. I think it's perhaps a combination of maybe mental fatigue and players dropping out of the side through COVID issues, illness, and injury and what have you. It's not been a settled back four, if you like, and it's forever changing, isn't it? So that could be one of the reasons. John Lundstram with another shining light. Joshua really seems to be coming onto a game now, doesn't he? And the manager was gushing in his praise for him at the end of the game.
He was, and I think the question was about John McLaughlin, and then Stephen Gerrard started. So I think I just showed you how keen he was to speak about him. I'm quite right, Derek, because I think we've all been pretty balanced on his taking a little bit of time to get up to speed over here at the Rangers Review, and you look at that performance. It's still only, I wrote my piece, it's still only the end of September. Some players take far longer than that to settle in. I think John Lundstram, not many people envisioned that he'd play the role of the six. But I think when against Dundee United away, you've seen that midfield of Lundstram, Davies and Kamara was pretty flat. Lundstram looked really comfortable. He moved the ball wide for the goal. He protected his team well, but he was just powerful, and that's what Stephen Gerrard said. And I think in these games, I'm Tynecastle away, these type of games that have hurt Rangers in the past, you need that battler a little bit. And for me, what's impressed me about Lundstram is his ability to contribute in the final thirds, and he had the second highest XG chain rating in the game, which basically means that he was, involved in a lot of what, if not all of what Rangers did that was good. Whether that be starting moves, initiating them from the back, playing forwards, supporting them. He had a couple of late drives into the box from the left-hand side. He had a left-footed drive that was one of Rangers' only 3 shots on target at Dens Park on Saturday. So for me, maybe in Europe he can play that right-sided role. I thought he was good there against Lyon. But I think what is really reassuring is that 3 weeks ago, Derek, that central midfield role, the longevity of it was a concern because you didn't know if Kamara was staying. You didn't know if Lundstram could play the 6. You're looking at Stephen Davis thinking, can he play 60 games again this season, with including international football? And now you've got Kamara. His value is an asset is protected until 2025. You've got Lundstram coming in at 27 in his prime, showing that he can play that role really well. So I think in terms of a central midfield role, it just shows. And as the manager said, it takes time. The manager said, quite a few times things that fans need to trust me on this one. And I thought he was quick to praise Lundstram because he's obviously really wanted to and come out and support him. And interestingly, he said as well, Derek, that Bacuna might need just that little bit of patience as well.
Yeah.
And he came off the bench obviously and looked bright, but the manager said again he hasn't had a pre-season. So for me, Lundstram, really good, best player in the park, and was calmed the Rangers' performance a lot. And it's great to have that longevity in midfield. As I say, it looks a lot more secure than it did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it'll be interesting him up against Stephen Davis because do you think the two can play? I know in Europe perhaps, but domestically, are they too similar?
I don't know because Kamara didn't have a great game on Saturday, but I think what Kamara always offers Rangers that no one really else in that squad offers is the areas he can take the ball and play through pressure. Stephen Davis can take the ball, anywhere. But I think what Kamara can do is he can allow Rangers to play into pressure, meaning that they can invite, 2 players to go onto him and open up another passing lane. Or Kamara can, he did it really well at one point on Saturday and then overplayed it. For me, Lundstram looks like he can be quite flexible. And I think the thing is, he's been judged on such a knife edge so far. You think of the sending off against Alish Kerr and the Dundee United performance in the Malmo game. He was really, quite chucked in there in difficult games and in very tactically specific roles. But he did that. I think it was pre-season against Tranmere, and there was one more game, Derek, where he played as a double pivot with Davies. So I don't see why not. I think for Rangers, the more options they have there, and then hopefully, second half of the season, Ryan Jack is back. How much stronger does that area of the pitch look than a few months ago? Do you know what I mean? You think Ryan Jack, for me, when we'll really see the benefit of him is just supporting the defence with the runs from midfield that teams often seem to gain success against Rangers with. So I think, again, looking at that second half of the season, in those, if you think of those 2 roles in midfield, Lundstram, Davis, Kamara, Jack, that's really strong and covers you for a real range of games. So all positive in that area of the pitch, which is great.
Yeah, Douglas is sent a question in. We need to hit the ground running. Next 3 games are tough, to be honest. Is it just me? We always start at a slow pace. Yeah, of course, the next 2 games against both Edinburgh clubs, and then a game against St Mirren. And I mean, Hibs and Hearts have started superbly well, so they're going to be terrific matches. But he's point there about starting at a slow pace. It's clearly evident that the intensity isn't there from the off, isn't it, Joshua? What do you put that down to?
I thought the intensity was a little bit better against Dundee, to be honest. I mean, I think often in these games, Rangers need to help themselves by not starting with a slow intensity. And you seen Dundee woke them up right away because Paul McMullen almost was through on goal after about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I think often that provokes Rangers. You know, when they know they're in a fight, they can't sleepwalk into games. Whereas you look at the first half against St Johnstone or Dundee United, and you know, it was slow. And then you risk relying or needing something like James Tavernier striking the 81st minute to get you out of jail. So, yeah, I mean, the intensity hasn't been there in terms of the best intensity we've seen from Rangers sides, but also wasn't there for a lot of the second half of last season. So I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't think that, again, looking at the numbers from the start of Rangers season last season compared to this season, there is a little bit of a drop-off in terms of the amount of counter-pressure regains they've got in the opposition half, basically how many times they're winning the ball back quickly after they lose it. And I think it's just these small details. Again, to go back to that penalty on Saturday, if 2 players just close that player down, show him backwards, kind of prevent that ball from going over the top, you stop it at source. And it's that stopping at source that I think has been the issue. It was the issue at Ross County away. It was the issue at St Johnstone for the ball that led to Michael O'Halloran's goal. I think that Rangers are playing a long season game. I don't think you look at teams like Liverpool, I think they run more intelligently season on season. I don't think they necessarily run more season on season. When Michael Beale speaks about pressing, he speaks about it from an energy conservation? Is that right?
Yeah.
Conserving energy. So I was worried. I almost said energy conversion, but that's definitely not the right term. Yes, so saving energy. Let's say saving energy. And I think what you're seeing from Rangers is, you know, they're this is a team into their 4th season. They know they know they have to go for the whole season. Whereas you look across the city and it's a very much a more intense, which I think looks more appealing, but I think also, you know, can you replicate that 50 times a season? Probably not, which is why most teams don't do it. And why increasingly you see teams around the world sitting in mid-block, because, you know, they can run less when they're defending and defend as they want to attack. So although it would be more appealing if you've seen a little bit more running, and I think you do see that with, you know, Sakala and Wright at home to Motherwell. I thought you did see that. I think Roof always, regardless, his pressure numbers tend to always kind of be pretty high regardless of the opposition. Rangers are also deliberately sitting off games at point. Gary McAllister said, I think, after the Old Firm game, the Alishkirk game. Yeah. And I think that's with a long season view. But it would be nice at times, I agree, for supporters to see that little bit more of an intention with the press. I think sometimes that can just change the narrative in games as well for me.
Yeah, and I want you to touch on James Tavernier, of course, racking up 300 appearances at the weekend. He spoke to Rangers TV afterwards. He says 300 games is a lot of games. Have come fast. It feels as though they've come fast, but it's the overall progression of a club, seeing how the team has come on since they've been here. We're reaching new heights. We're always demanding and wanting better from each other. As long as we can continue doing that every day on his training pitch and in games and getting better and better, then the club will be in a great place. He's right what he says. I remember when he joined from Wigan alongside Martin Waghorn. It's night and day,
different days
where the club is now, and even him himself to go through the dark times, shall we say, and then come out through the other end and lift the trophy last season. It's quite incredible.
Absolutely, and his 300th appearance was not one of his better ones, but he really did not have his best game. But yeah, the thing is, I thought it was interesting after the St Johnstone game when Gerrard reaffirmed the need for kind of respect on Tavernier's name. And I think with Patterson in the wings, it's always tempting to kind of want to not move on quickly, but you know, as soon as Tavernier has a bad game, it's easy to assume that that Nathan Patterson needs to play more. But you do forget Tavernier went through that Murty spell, the Kashinya spell, and I think that the mental fortitude that he's had to get to this point. If you told him that, you know, after the end of the Murty spell or the end of the Caixinha spell that he would be there. I think he'd be very happy with that, and his legacy is very much established within the Rangers support. And again, definitely not his best performance on Saturday. I thought he struggled a little bit defensively. Gave away gave away the ball cheaply on one occasion, which almost led to a good chance for Lee Griffiths. But 300 games is absolutely fantastic and speaks of his consistency overall. And yeah, congratulations to him, because that's a wonderful number.
Yeah, we'll finish up. Alex Campbell's got in touch. He just says, what's up with Arfield, guys? Wasn't in the squad at the weekend, but looking at the bench, they had McGregor, Davis, Patterson, Bacuna, Wright, Sakala and Barisic. Did the manager mention anything about that? Was it a knock or anything, or is it just a case of just such a strong squad?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the thing is, I think Arfield's, 32 going on 33? And Arfield's an attacking player. He doesn't fall into he plays an 8, but he's definitely not a 6. Yeah. He's in the last year of his contract. And he's in a difficult position because I think this time last season, Derek, was a time where he, I think it was the 7th game last season where he scored against Dundee United in that 4-0 win. And he came onto it. He had a fantastic 2 months. But, also, do Rangers want to be relying on that in an offensive point of view, the role that he plays from a player who's going into the final year of his contract? I don't know, but then you wouldn't put it past Arfield again. He is a really intelligent football player. It's just so competitive because you've got now Aribo there, you've got Hadji there, you've got Bacuna coming into the hybrid role as well. And we've really not seen Arfield whatsoever. I think Ross County away and Malmo away and Malmo at home, I think that's the only times we've really seen him, and a little bit of in the draw with Motherwell last weekend. So I don't know. He seems like an absolute top professional who will come into when called upon, but also you'd imagine he wouldn't want to sit a whole season with this limited game time. So that'll be an interesting one over the next few weeks. I mean, what do you agree with that, Derek, or do you think that he's?
Yeah, I think he's a bit part player in the nicest possible way. He's not a first team regular. I think he'll just come in and do a shift when asked upon. But I don't think he's a year older. Rangers have a lot of competition now in midfield. We were speaking about John Lundstram there. Yeah. Of course, Bacuna's arrived as well. So it just is. Competition is fierce at the moment. Stephen Kelly, of course, we've touched on him before as well, not featuring for several weeks as well. So yeah, you need to really be on it to get a place in this Rangers side. That'll do us there. Thanks very much again, Joshua. And a lot of you getting watching on our YouTube channel. Just be a reminder here just to hit subscribe on the Rangers Review site on YouTube and get alerts the moment we go live or have a new video up. And also to make sure to subscribe to the Rangers Review as well for only £2.99 a month and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and we'll be back tomorrow.